Right, check one, check two. This is it, ladies and gentlemen. The hammer has dropped. The people are fighting back, and it's a good thing. So I want you to know that if you're out there and you're wondering when is all of this nonsense going to end, we are actually winning right now. We're actually winning, and that you want to say that winning isn't everything, but when you're fighting the good fight, you want to be out in front. You want to be leading, and you want to be pushing back. Now, I didn't get round to doing a post yesterday because of life, the universe, procrastination, and everything in between. And that's part of the psychological warfare that's going on. I'm also compiling articles at the moment about the psychology of the problem of the lockdown and the fact that the people are constantly being hammered down and that a lot of them will break as a result. I read this morning that 1 million people in the UK as a result of the lockdown are now going to be unemployed. Think about what that's going to do psychologically to the culture. Think about the pressures. Think about the breakup in individual family relationships. Think about the breakup in lives. Think about the rise in criminality that's going to be a direct result of this. It's going to be chaos for a long period of time, and it didn't have to be that way. I'm also compiling articles on the case study of Sweden, which didn't have a lockdown, which has survived through the fake crisis admirably. And people are going to study that in the future, and they're going to wonder why we did this, or why we allowed this to happen. Even better, why we allowed this to happen. Why you allowed this to happen if you didn't get out there, if you didn't do something about this. The tagline, "We're all in this together," is meant to remove your power thinking that somebody else is going to, creating a thinking that somebody else is going to do everything for you. Somebody else is going to cover your bases. Nobody else is going to cover our bases. This is it. This is it. Right now. This is what's happening. Now, in order to give you some perspective on what I've seen and what's been going on, it's going to be necessary to take a quick flick back through some of the Facebook stories I posted. Now, interestingly, through this crisis, while Twitter and YouTube have been banning people and banning videos, Facebook has pretty much let everything stay up. That's really, really fascinating from my perspective, because I wouldn't have expected that from Facebook. Specifically talking about elements relating to 5G installation, which is happening very, very quietly in the background, and also referencing the Jon Rappoport studies of the lockdown and the virus, which are not allowed to be uploaded to other major platforms. Now, if you have a problem with YouTube, what you want to do is you want to switch over to brighteon.com or BitChute, or try another independent platform and get your information there, because YouTube have a tendency now of not really giving warnings before they shut sources down. Anyway, Facebook actually has hosted the Jon Rappoport information for people that want access to it. The thing is about Facebook, it's such a dense forest of information that cutting through to exactly what you want is complicated. But it is there, so that's important. Now, let's jump to checking out what's been going on the Facebook feed. Well, I'm not going to get into all of these stories. I've got a specific focus today. I'm not going to get into all the stories, but what I want to I want to do. I really, really, really wanna. Um, what I want to do, would like to, is give you an overview of the stories, so at least you can go out and search them for yourself if I don't ever get to them, which is highly probable, as I now have a list of 200 articles that I want to present, and I've got to select 4 or 5 from the 200, which is a sign that the information is out there. Isn't it amazing the internet is still up when everything else is down? I mean, what a resilient system. And I guarantee the there's a lot of work going on in the background to keep the internet up and to keep the internet going. So appreciate it and respect it, and thank you very much to everybody out there that's helping with that. You know, where's the clapping for those people? Yeah, right. Here we go. It's G from the Academy. Okay, so I got 1 minute of peace and love meditation. That's what I pumped out earlier this morning. And now my feet are wet because the tide came in. There we go. Oh, also, it's Easter Sunday and the churches are closed. Does that register in the in your cognitive awareness? It's Easter Sunday and the churches are closed, right? Wild. Now, I'm going to read out a couple of quotes here. Tim Kennedy, American Army sniper, veteran of wars, all-round good guy, fitness hustler, wrote, "You can't go to church, buy seeds or paint, operate your business, run on a beach, or take your kids to the park. You do have to obey all new laws, wear face masks in public, be tracked by your cell phone company, and pay your taxes. Hopefully this will be over by the 4th of July so we can celebrate our freedom. Nothing allows a government to grow like a crisis. Nothing allows a government to grow like a crisis." Yeah. Or you just stepping back and letting government come in and take over everything. Imagine letting government dictate how you behave inside your own home. Imagine the absurdity of it all. And it's also true that the information they censor is exactly what you need to know. It is. Now, senior British academics are sharing theories about the coronavirus. I'm not using the exact title because I think it's nonsense, but this is from the dailymail.co.uk. And it just lists major British academics, people who have spent their whole life studying information, who are saying that basically we're being fooled and we're being lied to. So it's worth listening to them. If you're interested in understanding what is actually in a vaccine, if vaccines are part of your radar, if you know that that's what's coming anyway, then please watch the video Out of Shadows on youtube.com. It'll only take up a little bit of your time and it might save your life. What more could you ask for? Which reminds me, I wanted to do a little presentation on the types of medicine that you can order and buy over the counter that can help you with flu-like symptoms, and all the stuff's in the kitchen. I'm not going to go get it. I'll bring it out another day. But you know, I'm talking about colloidal silver. I'm talking about zinc. I'm talking about fish oils. I'm talking about the vitamin supplements. All the good stuff, right? All the good stuff. Now, NHS staff have been forbidden from speaking out publicly about the coronavirus. On one side, you want to understand that you don't want everybody wandering around the hospitals with cameras, because a lot of stuff could get misrepresented and you need some privacy in that area. But why would you do that? Why would you stop people talking about what it is they've seen and what it is they've done? Why would you want to do that across the board? Is there something they want to hide? I would suggest yes, otherwise they would allow people to be interviewed, they'd allow people into hospitals. And there are a large number of videos on YouTube of people visiting medical facilities, finding that they're pretty much empty at the moment. There was a lot of field hospitals set up that now have to be taken down. They have to take down the field hospitals because they don't have enough patients. Because the numbers that were projected, you didn't reach 200,000 deaths. It's only 5,000, 6,000, depending upon where you are in the world. And this is because we flattened the curve. Please understand that if you flatten the curve, you extend the length of the problem, right? Why has this problem gone on so long, right? Why has this problem gone on so long? Basically because they tried to flatten the curve, they stopped it getting to its peak, and there's, go look at the graphs yourself. Go look at the graphs yourself. It basically the same number of people get infected whether you flatten the curve or whether you let the peak appear. It's just that peaks frighten people. A whole new world. Coronavirus. Who will be winners and losers in the new world order? And they're even saying this is creating a new world order. This is straight out of the Guardian newspaper. And I've got articles I want to get to today, and maybe we'll circle back around to these, but I want you to know that these articles are out there, worth reading if you want to know who benefits from the scenario of the crisis that we're in. Now, another presentation that I want to do next week is I want to do a presentation on Sweden. There's an article here from news at yahoo.com. Sweden's resistance to lockdown raises questions about our own tough approach. They haven't locked down. Similar level of problems. Nothing frightening going on. Crazy. Now, when things get removed, you begin to understand that there's an agenda involved. There's a massive agenda involved. So there was a petition to prosecute all UK cabinet ministers for pandemic incompetence. And basically, it's the government that have created the situation of 1 million people losing their job. It's not the virus that has created that. It's the government that has created that. And all of the things. And these people are then going to go on to a universal basic income, and a lot of them are not going to come off it. It's going to be frightening. I'm very much against the concept of a universal basic income, although I understand at the same time it could be better than a worse alternative. But that's a conversation for another day, right? Anyway, this petition was removed. This petition was removed from the internet by the organization, meaning that you can't actually protest against the government right now. So much for your free and open society. Now, I posted a song, Black Crowes, Good Friday, live, great song. And of course it was Good Friday. Minister Chuck Baldwin, I have to stop for a second. There is a wild rumbling thunder-like sound going on in the background here. I have no idea what that is, right? It's funny how it's quiet until you want to record, and then the moment you want to record, the shit hits the fan, right? Anyway, I follow Liberty Fellowship. This is a online and a physical-based church in Montana, USA. I like the work of Chuck Baldwin. Don't agree with his parenting principles, although I agree with everything else, right? Variety is the spice of life. His presentation, The Plague of His Own Heart, in it he presents the testimony of doctors who have said the response to coronavirus is devastating to communities and the economy, and it's where it started about 20 minutes. Yeah, if you start at the presentation about 20 minutes in, you'll get all the lists of information. American pundit, judge, advisor to various television channels about their legal problems, Andrew Napolitano, and a constitutional activist, of course, wrote, "What good are constitutional rights if they are violated when Americans get sick?" And it's a great point, because you should have rights whatever, whenever, without limitation. You should have your fundamental rights without limitation. Understand that. Understand that. You should have your rights without limitation. Um, just finished an interview for the Made in Murray series, motivational and inspirational work. You might want to check that out. It was absolutely mental watching Pope Francis celebrate his Easter Vigil mass in St. Peter's Basilica, and of course it was empty. I mean, how absurd is that? How completely absurd is that? You want a point to make? I'll give you a point to make. How does it feel to know the government have removed your ability to earn a living whilst increasing theirs at your expense? Are you enjoying this? You're feeling like a chump yet, people out there. How does it feel, huh? Tell me, how does it feel? Right, you've lost your job. Your friends have lost their job. People in the family have lost their job. Meanwhile, government are still on the paycheck. They're getting extra pay to help them set up their home office systems. Is anyone going to know what's going on with all of this remote distancing in place? Is anyone going to know what's going on? Beware of what's happening in the background, right? Beware of those little vans driving around, putting up little towers. I'm not joking. I'm not joking. I've seen them here. And I've seen people posting videos of them happening in other places as well. Beware. Beware of those little boxes being fixed to street lights. Not a joke. Not a joke. It's all happening out there. Right. What's up with the Italian mortality rate? Why was it so high? Well, statistics are presented by James Corbett on the Corbett Report, and you might want to check that out. There's a large element of information that the mainstream media is not covering, which includes the age demographic, the fact of the living conditions, the human contact conditions, and also the fact that apparently a large number of people in Lombardy were given experimental vaccinations as well. That's interesting. That didn't get picked up by most people, but James Corbett's reports are totally in depth, and that's what alerted me to the bigger problems going on. His medical martial law report is an absolute must. It's an absolute must if you want the background information on where you are, what's happening, what's going to happen, and how you can combat it. And that's going to be part of my focus this week. I want to talk to people about how you can combat the problem, how you can resist, how you can fight back in a peaceful way. Right. Once again, another article, why Sweden isn't forcing its citizens to stay at home during the coronavirus. And it makes perfect sense. It makes perfect sense. Having been a person who's criticized a lot of Swedish policies recently, and understood the problems existing within that country in terms of government, environment, and immigration, I am pleasantly surprised by their approach to this whole scenario. I wonder who their advisors are. I wonder how independent they are, and it would be great to have some more information about that. I really hope that somebody does an in-depth study so that I can pick it up and share it with people. Bill Gates has been a very busy man. Of course, his philanthropic giving is in fact a business racket, because no matter how much he invests in his medical companies, and he is involved in thousands of medical companies worldwide, he always makes a profit. I think didn't he give away like $35 billion last year, and that didn't affect his income? I mean, that's got to tell you something, right? It's got to tell you he's a good businessman, but that doesn't mean he's a nice person, right? Another story that came out of New York City was that 80% of coronavirus patients in New York City who have been put on a ventilator have died. And there was a doctor who gave a report on that against, he's exercising his free speech, and people are saying he shouldn't be doing that because he's a doctor and privacy, but, truth is the truth, right? Truth is the truth. So 80% of the patients have died. Now, if you add to that this knowledge that for every hospital, let's take the USA. Now, this is happening across the board in most countries as far as I can work out. For every diagnosis you get of COVID-19, the hospital gets $13,000 plus. And for every time they attach somebody to a ventilator, they get something like $35,000 plus. and you think they're not making money from it. Um, and the ventilators are set too high, and they're causing lung problems that are eventually killing people. Now, um, there's a fantastic uh, online research site which has been interviewing doctors who are risking their lives to bring you this information, doctors who are risking their lives to save the lives of other people. This is Dr. Ion Adisis, I think. I wish I could pronounce things better. Um, and he was interviewed on why we don't have reliable data surrounding COVID-19. It's about a 30-minute presentation, and he goes through why the statistics that the government are presenting are not real at the time they're presenting them, and why they always have to be revised. And they're revised in our favor, not in their favor, because they're making all the mistakes. Yes, they have to put their necks on the line, but if you put your neck on the line, don't be surprised when the guillotine drops, right? Um, um, it was a beautiful morning here yesterday. In other news, look at that picture. If you're watching the video version of this, you get to see a picture of the Bay Area here, and when the sun shines, it's cool. And that I was actually down there with the kids earlier today, and we were doing some rock climbing on the wall, which is really good for learning those things. Of course, I got my feet wet. Of course, there you go. Anyway, beautiful, absolutely beautiful. And of course, I shared another 1 minute of peace and love. Just taking 1 minute out of your day to share peace and love with people is a great thing to do. Imagine if everybody just took 1 minute out of their day. I think I think it would make a difference. I think it would make a difference. Now, I said earlier that I was very happy with the Facebook's approach to allowing certain information still on the internet despite other platforms for shutting things down. However, the fact that Facebook has an organization that fact checks articles to tell you that information is false before you even read the article is insane, because you've got to let people decide for themselves, otherwise they'll never learn. If you always cook a meal for somebody, they'll never learn to cook themselves. So this is an article from GreatGameIndia.com where Dr. Francis Boyle, creator of Bioweapons Act, says coronavirus is biological warfare weapon. Now he was responsible for international treaties signed by governments on bioweapons, so he knows his onions. And what he said is that it's clearly engineered, it's clearly stitched together, it clearly has a special delivery system added to it, and it's the incompetency has clearly, or general incompetency has clearly spread the virus. Now, look, the question is what level of intent? To what level of intent? Was it released on purpose? We know it came out of a bioweapons laboratory in Wuhan. We know it was sold to Wuhan from by an American university. The question is, was it released on purpose to quell the Chinese revolutions that were happening, and it got out of control? A lot of questions. Why Wuhan and not the other cities? How much of the data coming out of China is factual and actual? Why were people still allowed to travel? Why are people still allowed to travel out of there today around the world? Why were borders? If people were worried at the beginning, why were the borders not closed at the beginning? Close the border, but don't shut down the industry. Please. Please, enough insanity. Enough already. I tell you, enough. Yeah, and of course, Melissa wrote, "How dare you even try to share the information?" Like, you see the post here, it says false information checked by independent fact checkers. Isn't that a scary Orwellian term? Independent fact checkers. What the frig is that? An independent? Who? Who are these people? Why doesn't it have their names? Why doesn't it have their bios? Why doesn't it have who's paying them and who's paying the people that are paying them? Why doesn't it have any of that? Any of that up there? Any of that? Huh? Think about it. Think about it. Now, while you're being hammered by all this negativity, put out some pieces of advice, which I ripped from the work of Lewis Howes, School of Greatness. I respect a lot of his work, but his inability to challenge insanity is his weakness, and it is part of everybody's weakness, and somebody needs to point that out to him. Yeah, don't get too comfortable, mate. Right? Don't get too bought and paid for. So 15 habits that drain your energy. These are I know that I'm putting out a lot of negative information, so I also want you to think about taking a little bit of time. I've suggested meditation. I've suggested sharing a minute of peace and love. And also, here are 15 habits that drain your energy. There's 15 things that will get you or the people around you down, so you need to avoid these things, and you need to point these things out to other people as well at the same time. Got it? Got it? Right, here we go. 15 habits that drain your energy. 1, overthinking. 2, inconsistent sleeping patterns. 3, dwelling on the past. 4, and I got to stop already, right? Dwelling on the past. This shit has happened. Quite how it happened is to a certain extent unimportant as long as we understand the right way to react to it. And if you want to go back and study how it happened, that will give you an element of learning that you can learn from. But right now, we need not dwell on the past. We need to focus on improving the future. Now, moving on. 4, interacting with toxic people. People with toxic information, that is. The media, for example. 5, poor diet. Get your vitamins and minerals. 6, no physical activity. Get out or get an exercise bike and do something. Just do something. Stick your computer in front of your exercise bike, put on your favorite film, get on your exercise bike and pedal to your heart's content. 7, holding in anger and resentment. Let it out. If you don't have any other place around about you where you can vent, make a video, share it with friends, and expect them to, tear you down for certain opinions and just being yourself, but hell, that's life. Don't take things personally. It's only business. Negativity, constant negativity will bring you down. 10, worrying what others think of you. Really, does it matter? Does it matter? You know you better than anyone else. Constantly trying to prove something to others. If people want to pick it up and run with it, they will. Otherwise, just let it go. Complaining. You're always complaining about things, but I do offer solutions. Always checking notifications. That's drag. There are all these studies about how many times you check your phone every day. Frightening. 14. Constantly worrying. Don't let the demons drag you down. Participating in the drama. Let it go. Let it go. Don't become what you fight. Don't become what you fight. I like to put out positive messages to people. So what I'm saying at the moment is potential means nothing unless it moves towards something meaningful. If you've got a skill, use it and use it well. There we go. Yeah, amazing that people are still laughing right now at conspiracy theorists while they're locked inside of their own homes voluntarily. Very funny. You must do it. That's not a law. It's not a law when you get some random letter saying that you must do it. Now, it's a good time to watch the documentary Hoaxed by Mike Cernovich, because it explains exactly what's happening now and exactly the nonsense the media are pumping out. And they're inflating stories that are irrelevant and stories that don't empower you. And I also respect the work of social philosopher Stefan Molyneux, who's made a pretty strong stand about what it is that people should do, and he's really put himself out there. Just to quote Stefan here, there are a brutal number of fake news stories about the hideous nature of communism, and I have nothing but bottomless contempt for the people who cover this stuff up because they're aiding and abetting some of the greatest genocides in human history, just like they are right now. Check out the interview with Professor Natwikowski, who has credentials beyond anything that I can possibly imagine. He's an insider. He knows exactly what's going on, and in the interview he says that the responses are, relative insanity. Government has lost its mind, and he brings out graphs and charts and explains it all step by step by step. There we go. Question: why does the World Health Organization treat Bill Gates like a president? I dealt with that in the last presentation. Now, also, it's important to realize that that food is being wasted. I mean, you can see online food rotting. Farmers don't know what to do with their crops. They can't produce. They can't ship. They can't market. They can't sell. People are having to dump food in a time when food banks are overrun with people who need food. In other places they're dumping stuff. I mean, this shows you that globalism doesn't work in the sense that you need to have local producers and local suppliers with local content. Also happy to throw out there that the most recent Made in Murray Motivation and Inspiration interview went out with Paul Harvey a few days ago. Please check that out if you want to understand why your digital marketing is not working. Now, there are stories from Britain and America right now, and Australia and New Zealand, that the police are days away from checking shopping trolleys as lockdown rules are flouted. Now, they're saying that people are not locking themselves down enough, so that's going to cause the police to go to the supermarkets and check what it is exactly that people are buying. The government is now telling you what you can buy and what you can't buy. Somehow the government knows what you need. The government doesn't know what anybody needs. And also the frightening story is about immunity cards, which is the new form of a digital passport, which is being discussed by governments all over the place. Have you got the point yet? So that's just the basic news. That's just the basic news in the last 24 hours, right? And if you're a sane person and trying to process this, then you can see how heavily bombarded we are on all sides with this information. It's crazy. I do want to get into what the doctors are saying. That might actually require a second presentation today. It might require a second one. I'm going to see how far I can take this. I'm expecting anybody to focus their attention for longer than 15 seconds in the modern world is, in general, expecting a little bit too much, I think. What do you think? Everybody wants this. Here's the thing, right? I've got a coaching video that I need to edit, where someone's asking me about these problems and what are the solutions, and I provide solutions. And everyone's looking for this one thing, and there isn't just one thing. There's not just one answer to this. Everyone's looking for an easy way out. Well, we entered the hard way, and we're going to have to leave the hard way as well. This is the way that it is right now. Look around you. Tell me it's okay. You happy with the walls? Have you been staring at them for long enough? And the fear, people are frightened. They're scared to communicate. And they're scared of what? They're scared they're going to get something because somebody else has done something. When the people fight the people, it's all over. When the people fight the people, it's all over. And it's sort of, I get this flashback to before the Iraq War, which was completely unnecessary and a total waste of resources and failed miserably. There were 1 million people protesting on the streets. 1 million people protesting on the streets of Britain. And the government continued. the Blairite insanity just marched forward. They didn't care what people. If they didn't care what people said then, how do you think they're going to care what people say now? How do you think? Do you really think the government care about you? If you're watching this, you probably know that they don't. You know, thinking that people who don't know you know what's best for you is always risky. It's always risky. You know, in my personal development and coaching work with people, a lot of it is about realizing that nobody knows what you need better than you, because nobody really knows what you're feeling better than you, and getting in touch with that part of yourself that knows what you need so that you can make the right decisions, because eventually the coach has to leave and you've got to manage and handle this stuff by yourself. Look, you can only take people part of the way. You can only show people the door. They have to walk through by themselves. And now, of course, governments are asking for data about people to double check and triple check, because it's not enough that we force you to stay inside. We need to double check that you're doing that. A former American Senator Ron Paul has made a rather bold prediction that things are not going to go very well if we continue in our present direction. I tend to agree with him. Now, it's if you're watching the video version of this, feel free to link to me at Graham William Hendry through Facebook. You can also find me on Twitter. You can also find the Academy of Language Therapy and Life Coaching on YouTube for as long as it's there. I did set up some backup channels, but time is all we have, and still sometimes not enough. Still sometimes not enough. You know, it's interesting. So if you're watching the video version, you're getting all the lifetime things pop up on the screen, and there are people trying to shut down Facebook Marketplace right now. They're trying to shut it down, saying that it's killing people, the fact that you're engaging in commerce. And the people need stuff right now. They need stuff. Old people need help with stuff. Young people need help with stuff. There are things that can save people's lives. There are things that can bring sanity to the world. Commerce runs our society, not the government. Commerce runs our society. The ability for the consumer to decide what it is that they would like to buy is, you know, the antithesis of what resolved the communist problem. It's the antithesis of communism, is what I want to say. It's what resolved the problem, letting the free market do the free market thing, right? Don't get the wrong idea. And having lived in a post-communist country for 20 years, I can say if you haven't done that, then you've got absolutely no idea what you're talking about when you think that everything is still free here and we haven't taken a big bite of the socialist pie. Crazy as it is, this is where we're at. This is how we do it. Right. Still want to know what's going on in the background, because the building is kind of shaking a bit here. Right. Moving on to Twitter, which I haven't really used very much until the last 2 weeks, and now I understand the power of it. I kind of missed it before, but it's this ability to pick up talking points, snippets of information, good ideas, something to run with if you don't have time for the full story, or just elements of the full story, or just the fact of something that you can then take and then you can go and double check for yourself to see if it's right. It's really important. Really, really, really important. So I try to post on Twitter motivational stuff every day. Feel free to link to me. Anyway, let's just have a quick scout through that and see what we can pick up. So Alex Berenson tweeted, the Swedes know exactly what they're doing. They provide data on ICU admissions and overall ICU cases. Remember, there's a lag in information as well. You can't just put things out like that. You've got to wait for everything to be collated. And, you know, what happens is they find data that they lost and they add it in later on, and, you know, the usual insanity. So, basically, there's been no daily spike in overall cases, and everything appears to have peaked in Sweden. Well done, guys. Well done, Sweden. Good job. Good job not following the insanity of the rest of the world. Kyle Base retweets, this global crisis is a good time as any to set ourselves the goal of recalibrating our relationship with this murderous autocracy that has brought the world such misery, and this means China. China lied about the number of people that died, they lied about the severity of the illness, and they lied to the World Health Organization. The World Health Organization then lied to us based on that data, or misinformed us. The virus did come straight out of Wuhan. So it's just another, and Nigel Farage is pointing out, it's another time to rethink about the way that we want to go. Do you really want to follow that path? You know, the United Nations, that private organization, is saying this is the century for China. Really is it? Do we want a Chinese social credit score system? Do we want a Chinese response system? Do we want a Chinese governmental system? Do we want that, or do we want choices? You decide. Meanwhile, Steve Courts retweets the petty tyrant Michigan leader, his opinion, not mine. Governor Whitmer mandates citizens may not travel to their own second residences, may not buy garden seeds, or may not buy paint. I mean, how far is it going to go? When are you going to realize? When's it going to stop, huh? When's it going to stop? When's it going to stop? Tell me now, when's it going to stop? Oh, we don't know. Well, then that's not good, is it? It's not good. Such government overreach represents an affront against common sense and our principles of liberty. Part 1 of 3. Yes. So yeah, more insanity. You know, the power-hungry people, power-mad people, they're out there and they want more power, and of course, it's not good. Right. CNN used a picture, it talked about hoaxed earlier, you know, the media pumping out fake news, the nurse crying and saying the hospitals are overrun. It turns out it was fake. Yeah. CNN running with pictures of an Italian hospital overrun with people, saying it was a hospital in New York City overrun with people. More fake news. So just stop it, guys. Just stop pumping out the nonsense. Stop pumping out the rubbish. CNN used a picture of people during Hurricane Harvey, claiming it was current COVID reporting. What? Intentional. It's intentional. They're intentionally lying to you, and you're like you're lapping it up like a cat with a fresh bowl of milk, right? I mean, how are seeds non-essential? Great point. How are seeds non-essential in a time of crisis? Explain that to me. Unless there's something I don't know. Unless there's something I don't know. Really? Really? Huh. Anyway, here's another point. We can see now how completely irrelevant schools are, because I imagine that most kids are doing very well right now, getting a real perspective on life if they're not being scared shitless by the media and their parents. Offices aren't about working, no, because you can now work from home. Churches aren't about praying, because you can now pray from anywhere, but the churches are closed and it's Easter Sunday and it's insane. Restaurants aren't about eating. Yeah, maybe they are, maybe they're not. Maybe they help people who are busy. You know, the thing is in life that everything is connected to everything else. Now that's a Leonardo da Vinci quote, but it's true. Everything is connected to everything else. So don't think this has all happened by chance or by accident. Remember, 1 million people in Britain have just lost their jobs. Right. I retweeted a tweet from David Knight, who said that, who pointed out, because he's a statistical analyst, that the American government overestimated hospitalizations by between 200% to 1,000%. That's huge. They overestimated ventilator use by 4,000%. It's insane. It's huge. I mean, if you make a tiny little error, it's a tiny little error. But this is like an error on the size of a planet. It really is the error on the size of a planet. It's just continued insanity. And these were the lies used to shut down the United States economy. And I think, let me tell you what I think. I think that all these people have been running around in the background for a long period of time dictating policy. And I think that President Trump and his advisors have been aware of this, and I think they're pushing these people to the front. They're putting these people on the front line so that everyone can see the insanity. And I think it's a very good skill. I think Trump is saying to people, right, if this is the way to go, then you go out there and you present it to people and you deal with the results, because that's it's just a nice little tactic that he's got there. I mean, if people are insane, let them talk, and people will realize eventually that they are insane. That's the way that it goes. Moving on. Luke Radowski, the head at We Are Change, posted, good question raised by Tucker Carlson. Why did the coronavirus spread all over the world, impacting cities all throughout countries, but only affected one city in China? Right, that's a really, really interesting point. Okay, now, a lot of videos appearing online. Luckily, we have the ability to record information. People being forced to wait outside of shops, people being forced to stand in line, people being like one at a time into shops. Even you can't avoid human contact. Meanwhile, at the same time, people in Sweden walking past each other, people in Japan, because they shut down parts of the infrastructure and the train networks and stuff that they have to walk together on the streets and pavements. Buses still running in this part of the country. You would have thought if there was a seriously deadly virus, they wouldn't allow people on buses, because one person on the bus with the virus would infect the whole bus, and they'd have to shut down all the buses. And if you shut down the plane travel, what's the point in still having buses? I mean, stop and think, people. Just stop and think, just for a little while. Is it too much to ask? Really? Is it too much to ask? I don't know. I don't think it is. I don't think it is too much to ask. Now, interestingly, behind the scenes, if you want to read, you have to read into the background of the UN. Mental note, another thing to do. Little presentation, background of the UN, who set it up, where it comes from, how it relates to the League of Nations, how it relates to the orientation of societies, not so that everyone is equal. Don't get that wrong. Anyway, the UN is set to run out of money by the end of the month, the Secretary General warns. Well, because you're living off of other people's money, really. You're not generating an income. And besides that, the UN has been caught involved in massive criminal activities throughout Africa. And just Google UN crimes. Not that it doesn't do good things, but if you've got a company and some people do bad things, you fire them, you get them out, you apologize for it, you stop it, you don't cover it up. Because the truth will out anyway, and you can only build on the truth. You can't build on a lie, because a lie requires another lie. You always have to revert to the truth to build something anyway. You can't build a house if you don't dig the foundation. If you said you dig the foundation, but you want to build a house, and you get to the house and there's no foundation there, you get the point, right? You get the point. So there we go. A couple of other little tweets that have gone out recently. So I'm discovering what's up, folks? I'm discovering the value of Twitter right now that I hadn't realized before. Of course, the language of all of this is quite interesting to me. Twitter, the tweet, it's what birds do. There's a lot of it, and it doesn't really amount to much. Beware. So you can send me stuff through Twitter if you like. Instagram also has a desktop-based site, but I'm just using that to mirror posts of other things that are happening right now. And it's crazy, isn't it? I mean, that's just almost an hour on the basics of where we're at. and hopefully putting out some talking points for you. I also have at the top of the page 8 tabs open related to doctors who have presented information contrary to what the establishment is saying. It's not only contrary, it's just it's factually accurate. And when you realize that there's more people questioning than running with the actual story, you realize how little power there is in authority right now if you stand up. The old story of the ants, isn't it? If one ant stands up, we can crush him. But if all the ants stand up together, it's part of the solution, isn't it? Another thing worth researching, might get into that as well, is the number of films that have come out recently, because the ants reminded me of the films, talking about the potential problems with viruses and the timing of those. When you realize that Bill Gates funded the last Netflix series about viruses. Yeah, what's going on behind the scenes? It's worth knowing. It's really worth knowing and checking out. Right. I got it done today. I got it done. And there's a lot more to do. I got it done and I didn't even get out the larger aspect and part of the information. I've also got 6 different folders on my desktop related to topics that I need to point out that are very important, that can empower people right now. You can empower yourself by staying fit, staying healthy physically and mentally in this present time. Don't get hooked on big pharma. Don't get hooked on a feeling. Oh, oh. What are the words? I don't know the words. Seeing is believing, something like that. Anyway, it's been an absolute pleasure to have an opportunity to present this information to you. I very much hope that things are going to improve. I know they're going to improve for me because I'm going to work at making those things better. Everybody else, that's their choice. I'm not here to tell you what to do. You've got to ask yourself that question in your heart. What am I going to do? What am I going to do? Right. Thank you very, very, very much for tuning in. Other things to get off and get done. Wherever you are, I wish you an absolutely fantastic day. Stay cool. Take care. Love. Love, much love to you all.